Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we will build the CoreUI module. We're going to define the reusable components, theming, adding the assets, fonts, the same thing basically that we have done under Vuetify application and Kotlin application. Choose Pocket Goods, hit File, New, Package, it's going to be a library, hit Next, Next. It's going to be under Pocket Goods, Parents folder. Let's call it CoreUI, add it to Pocket Goods, and create. I would like here to specify the minimum version of iOS. As dependencies for this particular package, we need .lutty animation. Let's add it to the target, and we are done. We're going to come back basically to this particular file when we're going to add our fonts and the animations and the assets. All right. With the same thing that we have done under Kotlin application, we're going to serve everything, all the assets, the images, the theming, and the colors, and the components from this particular package. This is basically the main idea while creating a CoreUI. You can think of it as a library. A new file from template and choose Assets Catalog. Hit Next. I'm going to add here some colors and whatnot. If you want, you can download the whole project and place the colors here. This is the background that we're going to use in this project. Just drag and drop. It's pretty simple. Those are basically the icons. We need to make sure that we are displaying the template image. But for this particular one, it has to be an original image in order to be shown as colored SVG file. Likewise for all the, like for this one also, it should be an original image. Try to download the whole thing and just drag and drop. I have defined this color pretty much. We have used this color previously in the other application under Kotlin, as well as there was no splash theme under Vuetify, but under Kotlin we have defined this as a splash theme background, and this is the theme of our app. And that's pretty much it for the media assets folder for our CoreUI. We have to add this under the package declaration file. Underneath dependency, add the media assets folder. Save the file in order to synchronize and delete this file. All right, so just try to drag and drop this media under CoreUI, delete pretty much the test folder. Next, we have to define the string resource and the same values that we have done under Kotlin application, but this time for Swift. New folder, I'm gonna call it local, file from template, and choose string catalog. Hit next, and you are good to go. I'm going to open it as a source code, and you can find the string catalog in the branch CoreUI. Try to copy the whole thing and paste it here, and try to open it as a string catalog. And you can see here all the strings that I have prepared for this tutorial. I would like to add here an extension function on string. Basically, it is a helper function that's going to access this string catalog and to give us the correct string by the key. I'm going to create here a new file. I'm going to call it local keys. I'm going to create or to copy all the keys here under a structure. I'm going to call it local keys. And again, you're not going to enjoy writing down this by hand or manually. Just copy paste the whole thing, paste it here. Instead of hard coding this thing, we have right now the local keys. And let's say I want to access the application name. I'm going to do local keys, application name, localized, and we can access here the string resource. This is basically what we're going to do here. So let's delete this, return here in s localized string, and we have to provide the arguments. It should be self, in other words, the key bundle. Why we specify the bundle here? Because we are under a different bundle than the main bundle. The bundle here is the CoreUI. So we have to provide here a bundle. Therefore, I'm going to create here a parameter. I'm going to call it bundle of type bundle. It's going to be the main bundle. Pass in the bundle. The last parameter, which is the comment. We won't need actually here the comment, an optional parameter, just to make this function reusable. And we have to pass here the arguments. Why the arguments? Because we need sometimes under the localizable or string resource, we have to specify here or to replace in the placeholder with some values. Now we have accessed the string, we need to replace any occurrence of a placeholder with the correct value. For the format, it is basically what we have done under ns localized string, and for the arguments, we have to pass here the arguments as arguments. Now we are done with the string resource and the extension function that's going to easily handle for us this access to the string catalog. I would like to add here the fonts as well as the animations that I have prepared for this tutorial. Under CoreUI, create a new folder, let's call it fonts. And I'm going to pass here the fonts that I have prepared for this tutorial. Another folder, I'm going to call it animation. And let's add those fonts as well as the animations under the package definition. Under the process and media, we're going to add animations and the fonts folder and save the file. Now we can access the animation as well as the fonts. Now it's time to define the theming for our app. Let's go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to call it theme. Next, I'm going to create a structure that's going to be called theme. And I'm going to define the background color, error, info on background, and so on. Let's say we want to define the background color. I'm gonna do here let's and background equal color. To access the background under the media asset catalog, I'm going to copy this key, which is background. I'm gonna paste it here, and we have to specify the bundle. It's gonna be module because we are right now under a different bundle than the main bundle, and so on for the rest of the colors. Error, info on background till warning. In order to make it easier for us to access those colors in our code, I'm going to create an extension function on color that's going to define and that's going to return for us the colors from theme or the instance of this theme structure. Go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to call it colors theme. It has to return a theme instance, and we can access the theme in our application easily. Under a normal view or a normal Swift file for UI, we're going to do, for example, the text foreground color, for example, and we can do theme, and we can access here on background, for example, or on primary, on or whatever. We have something similar under the splash screen. We need to handle theming under splash screen, therefore create a new file. I'm going to call it splash theme. We need to access from media this particular key, and we have to add it here as a value. I'm going to call it background or a property of our splash theme. With the same manner under colors, I'm going to create a static function. I'm going to call it splash theme of type splash theme. It will return an instance of splash theme. I'm going to be inspired again from Kotlin. I will specify here the shapes, for example, the rounded corners. It's going to be an extension function on theme. Let's go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to call it shapes for extra small rounded corner. Let's say, for example, 2. The same thing that we have done, I guess, under Kotlin application, and we have to import here foundation. Likewise, for the other cases, small, medium, large, and extra large. Now we have to handle the typography. And again, I will try to be inspired from Kotlin or Jetpack Compose. And this is how I do basically when I deal with native cross-platform applications in my projects. I'm going to define here under typography the fonts that we have to use. Let's go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to call it typography. What is the font that we're going to use in this project? Let's say, for example, we want to define for the display large font of type Lato. For the size, it has to be 30. Let's go ahead and create a new file. Let's call it Lato font loader because we have to load the fonts before using it. This is a little bit complicated actually than the Jetpack Compose loading the fonts, but this is how to do so under Swift. We have 3 fonts actually. We have the Lato bold, Lato italic, and regular. I don't want to hardcode those values, therefore I'm going to create here public enum. I'm going to name it Lato, and we have to specify here the type, which is string, and case iterable to allow us to iterate. I'm going to create here a simple function or a private function to register a single font because we have to iterate over the cases bold, italic, and regular using font manager register graphics font. We're going to load first of all the fonts, and we have to register that afterward. In order to load the fonts, you have basically to access the URL from the bundle. Therefore, I'm going to create here a bundle. name of the file as well as the extension. Let's call this font URL equal bundle, and we have to pass here the font name as well as the font extension. What we have to do next is to read the data by using data provider. CF URL, we have to cast it to this particular type. All those values are nullable. That's why we have added the guard statement. Now we can load the font. Let's store this font under font by using CG font. And we have to pass here the provider. And provider is font data provider. If we are not able to retrieve the URL or the font data provider or the font, what we have to do, we're going to crash the application or the process by doing fatal error. And let's say, for example, could not create font from file. Now we have the font. We need to register the font using the font manager register graphics font. We need to pass here the font and errors or the address of the errors. Therefore, I'm going to create here error of type unmanaged CF error nullable, and we have to pass here the address. Now we have implemented the register function. Now we have to define the public function to register all the fonts. The bundle, this should be static. The font name, can access the font name by doing $ and 0 and the raw value. And the extension, in our case, we are always using the TTF extension. And that's pretty much it for registering all fonts. I would like to add here an extension function on font in order to access or to make our font recognizable under the SwiftUI components by defining the Lato as a name. For example, we have the text component, some text, font, and we want to access our Lato font by doing something like Lato and specifying here the arguments. It is a public extension function, font, Lato. We want, for example, to show bold, we're going to use bold, or we're going to show italic, or to use italic, or to use regular. We want to pass, for example, the size of the font. It has to return a font. We have already a custom one, can do custom, and we have to pass here the name, which is basically Lato and raw value. And for the fixed size, instead of fixed size, it should be size, and to pass here the size. In the example that I've showed you before, like for example, text and font and Lato, and you have to specify here whether bold, italic or regular, and the size, let's say for example, 23 or something like this, which is very reusable. Now under the typography, we can specify, for example, the values of display large and medium, basically the same values that we have done under the definition of typography of our Kotlin application. I will try to replicate pretty much the same principle here. So we have this extension function on font. We're going to specify, for example, the typography of display large as font and Lato, and we have to provide here the type or the extension. It's going to be regular, and the size. And again, I really don't want to hardcode the size. I'm going to create here another extension function over CG float, a static value, display large, and here I'm going to do display large. You can customize those values according to your liking, and with the same manner, we're going to define the others in order to avoid the confusion. Instead of adding here display large, I'm going to add a prefix, and we're going to replace that by display or heading, just to distinguish between this font display large and the font size, if you will, and the real one, which are the fonts of typography. And I think that's pretty much it for today's video. We have defined all the necessary stuff from typography to resources and whatnot. For the next tutorial or for the next video, we're going to focus on our routing mechanism for this particular application, defining all the util stuff under the util package. I hope you have learned something new. See you in the next one, and happy coding.